Good morning to you all. My colleague Heiko Maas, Vice President Maroš Šefčovič, Commissioner Amani Abu Zaid, ministers from more than 30 countries, Excellencies, Mr. Adnan Amin, Dr. Fatih Birol.
Welcome on behalf of Chancellor Angela Merkel to all of you. She has been a Minister of the Environment. She was involved in the negotiation of the Kyoto Protocol, and she is a wholehearted supporter of your activities back at home in your countries, in your regions, because she is deeply convinced that only when we can manage to establish a more sustainable world, we will make progress with regard to stability, peace, freedom and democracy. This morning, during breakfast, I was thinking, what do we have in common? The ministers, the foreign ministers, and the ministers of energy. And the answer is quite clear. We are struggling like hell to avoid blackout. To avoid political blackout on a day-to-day basis, to avoid electricity blackouts in our countries and in our regions. And we have a second thing in common, and this is that all of us know the short-term work as fire workers worldwide to avoid blackout will be successful only if we are able to decide on long-term developments and if we decide now on what has to be implemented and achieved in 20 years from now. Meine sehr verehrten Damen und Herren, wir stehen vor großen Herausforderungen.
We are facing great challenges, as the foreign minister already said.
Keinen Irrtum darüber.
And we should not give in to illusions. In the next couple of years, we will only be able to achieve the energy transition if we understand that this is a long-term project. An energy transition is like operating on an open heart surgery. You cannot achieve it overnight. You need to start 20 years ahead, 30 years ahead. You need to master great challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, in Germany, in the 1990s, this is when we started to install the first renewables installations. Back then, investors were seen as idealists, as crazy people. They said, oh, it's a nice hobby, but it can never cover the industrial needs of a country of 80 million people. Now it's 30 years later, and we are producing 36% of our electricity from renewable sources. In January of this year, on the 1st of January this year, 2018, we've been able for a very short amount of time to cover all of our energy demand in Germany from renewable energy installations. This is the progress that we are seeing that was achieved. Around 20 years ago, there was a big boom in expanding renewable energy, because maybe we had the most expansive funding system around the world, but it was also very costly. And so 10 years later, in 2012, 2013, the energy transition was in troubled waters, and many people said, well, it's not affordable. We cannot simply afford this energy transition. Today, it's 6 years later again, and we can say that expansion of renewable energy has become a lot more affordable, and that we are probably coming to a point where renewable energy doesn't need any funding anymore and is still profitable and competitive. Yes, the solar panels, biogas, wind turbines, all of this technology will maybe become more competitive than energy from fossil fuels. And so, colleagues and friends, if you want to do the same in your countries, if you want to have an energy transition, you need to start today if you want to see the results in 20 years. You need to make the decisions now. And if you're a foreign minister or an energy minister, well, it's a difficult task, because you need to convince your colleagues. You need to talk to heads of states, to parliaments, to parties, to other ministers, to economic ministers, and to other ministers as well. And so how can you convince them? It's easy. prosperity. In Germany,
sind betroffen, so wie viele Inselstaaten.
like many of the island states and many northern and southern countries, we are affected by climate change. This is why we call it climate change. But there are also countries that are not close to the coast,
Schwellenländer werden wollen, die
that
Industrieländer
want
werden wollen.
to become
Wo die Verantwortung
emerging countries, industrialized countries, and where responsibles are saying, yes, we understand it, but we want prosperity, we want growth. And our answer to this needs to be yes. We need an energy transition because we want to have prosperity for 8 billion people around the world. After the end of the Cold War and the fall of the Iron Curtain, that the market economy became really successful around the world. Except 2 or 3 countries today, the laws of the market economy have been enforced and it works. The global economy is growing. At the same time, there is a risk that industrial developments and economic growth will be stifled because of the environmental burden everywhere around the world and in our countries. This was the situation in the 1970s when in Germany we started to clean up our rivers and to make sure that our skies became blue again. So the most important point, I think, in favor of the energy transition is that it helps us bring about prosperity around the world, that it helps us create economic growth for many decades to come, and that is also an opportunity for us to create more energy by polluting the environment a lot less. This is the great challenge we are facing. The second point that you can take back to your presidents and prime ministers is that if you're fast, if you're one of the first movers, that you can then also do good business with the energy transition. The energy transition is becoming a business case. Just like the Kondratiev innovation cycles, it will bring benefits to those who move first. And this is why yesterday I talked to Fatih Birol and with Adnan Amin and many others, and we talked about what we can do to move the energy transition forward in Africa, in Latin America. And I had a long talk with my good friend, the Turkish energy minister, because Turkey is an enormous economic hub. It is a long way from Germany, but we have many things in common. And we saw that for many similar reasons, we need the energy transition in our countries and that we need to work together. How can it be that the production of solar energy in many Asian countries, where the sun shines a lot more intensively than in Germany, is still more expensive than in our country? How can it be that wind turbines are not built where there is the most wind? Because it's too expensive to build them or maintain them. And this is why we need forums like this one. We need to get our experts talking, our investors talking. We need big projects, not only as part of the development cooperation. We need big economic projects that are profitable at the end of the day and that help whole countries to lead in these new economic times. And this is why we also need to discuss the mistakes of the past and how we can prevent them in the future. Germany was one of the first countries, not the very first one, but was one of the first countries that was ready to take a risk and to move forward. And like many other countries, we gained a lot of experience, and we would like to share our experience with you and would like to discuss this experience. Germany is a country that wants to learn too, because we've understood that the energy transition only works globally. It's only viable if it's not just a solution for 1 or 2 countries, but a solution for the whole world. And if there's prosperity, competitiveness, and ecological sustainability, if these three things are combined, this is what we seek to do in Germany over the last couple of years, we've seen that the energy transition is not only brought about by energy ministers or environment ministers, but that it is society that needs to bring it about. I would like to share a secret with you. When I was appointed environment minister a few years ago, then nobody in Germany really knew what the energy transition was. Then I gave a few scandalous interviews and there was a lot of criticism about this, and I learned a lot, but the result was that suddenly minister-presidents of German Länder, and that the interior minister, the defense minister, suddenly started to become interested in how we can make the energy transition a success. Now we have a government, and from the foreign minister to the education minister to the health minister, we have 16 ministers, and all of them are experts in the energy transition. They know how important it is to not only build biomass systems and solar systems, but we also need to expand the grid. In the last 100 years, electricity was produced, was generated where it was used, in the big cities and in the industrial hubs. The energy transition leads to a shift in this. Rural areas are suddenly benefiting from economic growth because the wind turbines, the solar panels, the biomass installations are not built in the cities, but in rural areas where there's a lot of space and where it's cheap to buy land and where you can generate electricity and produce energy without annoying people who live there. And this is why we need to restructure our grids. And this is difficult for a developed country such as Germany, but it's good if countries that are just starting to modernize their state grids, who are just thinking about how in a digitized world we can build up an energy supply to make sure that we have a reliable energy supply. So if you anticipate what's necessary in the future if you expand renewable energy for the next 20 or 30 years. I am grateful that the Energy Agency has said that it's willing and ready to install an energy efficiency hub, because we're not only talking about expanding renewables, we are also talking about the issue, how can we use the energy that we have more efficiently? And it's not a secret that there are low-hanging fruits. There are many countries where if you build good energy infrastructure, you could certainly save 40% of the energy that is used there today. Can you imagine that 40% more energy that's available for your economy, for your population, for creating prosperity and for industrial production? We need to talk about how we can store energy. Today, I saw on Twitter that Elon Musk, who has made a big contribution to this, that in the US, renewable energy, and especially solar energy, have become competitive or are becoming competitive. He said, we can store energy today at a cost that was unimaginable a few years back. Battery storage units, for example. We don't know whether they will be a solution in the future for most of the problems that we're facing today, but they will be a solution for many countries and in certain sectors. And so we also need to think about how we can help energy storage units become cheaper. So it's not only about distributed subsidies, it is also about making a market economy and competitiveness possible in this sector. Yesterday I also talked with Vice President Šefčovič, and we talked about Europe, and we said that 10 or 15 gigafactories to cover the global need of battery storage units in Europe, in our value chains, but also beyond Europe in many other countries. And I know that in Japan, in Korea, in the US, there are many gigafactories that are emerging, but this process that will lead to not all of these factories surviving, and maybe some will not be profitable at the end, but this is what it's like in a market economy. This is a necessary process, because at the end of the day, we will then have batteries that maybe 50%, 30%, 20% of the price that we have today. And then they will be competitive not only in developing and emerging, not only in developed countries, but also in emerging countries and developing countries. And those are the challenges that we're facing, whether it's in Germany, in France, or in the UK, or in Turkey, or in Greece. We haven't mastered these challenges nowhere around the world. We're still in the first phase, but today we know that it's possible, not only in theory, but also in practice. And we know that it's worthwhile to work towards achieving this goal. And if we can spread prosperity around the world, if we can help promote sustainability and environmental protection all around the world, if people think about how they can create more prosperity and not spread more war and conflict, then we can make contribution to more stability, to more peace and more reliability around the world. And this is a key condition for millions of people to live their lives. All people around the world are free and equal. That's also enshrined in the Constitution of the United States and also in the French Constitution. They are born the same, but in the last couple of hundred of years, not all of the people had the same opportunities to live free and equally. And if we move forward the energy transition, we will provide more people with the opportunity to do this, not in the next few years, but it's worthwhile to work towards this goal. So thank you for coming, and I wish you successful talks and discussions and a lot of success at home in your countries for driving forward the energy transition in your country. Thank you very much.
Well, I don't want to let you go without asking you a question as well, but you need a mic for that. So please, could you go back to the desk straight away? Okay. So a question about an issue that a lot of people here in this room are interested in. The federal government, the German government, has decided to set up a commission to talk about the phase out of coal-fired power. And many people say that means you just pushed it to one side, you've kicked the can down the road. So my question to you, Minister, how do you want to make sure that by the end of this year, the Commission will come up with the outcome we need?
Just a few words about it. Fossil energy production is one of the most important issues. We have decided in the G20 summit that took place 2 years ago in Germany, in Elmau, we have decided, in the G7 summit in Elmau, we have decided to phase out nuclear energy consumption until the end of the century. And every single country needs its own roadmap for achieving that. In Germany, we are facing a double challenge because we have decided to implement energy transition. That was a good decision. We have taken another decision that is widely accepted as well, and this is the phasing out of nuclear energy production. We will close down the last nuclear power plant in Germany by 2022, 2023. It is established by law, so everybody knows it, everybody prepares for it. And that makes it quite difficult to compete with countries which are the front runners in phasing out of fossil and coal energy supply as well. Nevertheless, we believe it is important, and we have decided a climate protection plan for Germany. It was decided in a cabinet meeting last year, 2 years ago, and we have established, in order to meet the Paris Agreement climate goals and the 2050 climate goals, we have set goals and aims for 2030, and that means we will have to reduce CO2 emissions from coal power plants by 60% until 2030. And that has very concrete consequences. It has a consequence that we have to decide which power plants will be cut off and which ones will produce a little bit longer. We will cut down our fossil coal and electricity production by half until 2030. And this is something that has to be accepted by political parties, by state governments, and therefore we have established in our coalition agreement such a committee. Germany is very well known for its committees. We have more committees perhaps than companies, but when you look at our experience in almost 70 years, most of them have been successful, because it is a way to shape and to achieve compromise that will last even after government change. And therefore, the idea is to have a clear vision what has to be done until 2030, and then we can anticipate the phasing out, and we can start creating new jobs. Jobs that are reliable for people for a mid-term and long-term future in the areas where the power plants will be cut off. Part of the power plants is located in the new Länder in eastern Germany, where we have structural disadvantaged regions, and therefore I will attend later this morning a cabinet meeting of the Saxonian government in order to discuss how can we achieve it. I see my most important priorities as an energy minister. I'm a minister of the economy as well, but as an energy minister, one is extending our grid in a way that all the renewable energies and electricities can be transported and used, and second, achieving a compromise that will end the polarizing debate about fossil energies, because everybody will know we are phasing out, not within 2 or 3 years. It will take much longer, but there is a clear signal. Germany is part of the transition from fossil energies to renewable energies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Vielen Dank.